My name is Howard Granger, and I'm 63 years old. I worked over 35 years in construction, poured concrete in the dead of winter, hung drywall with a busted shoulder, and climbed scaffolding long after my knees gave out. I didn't complain. Not once. Why would I? I had a wife I loved and 2 boys I thought were my pride and joy, Zachary and Miles. I raised them in a 2-story house I built with my own hands in Des Moines, Iowa. That place had my blood in its beams and my heart in its walls. But today, I lay helpless in the same house I broke myself to keep, and I couldn't even get a glass of water without being told I was a burden. The accident happened 2 months ago. A drunk driver T-boned my pickup at an intersection. They said I was lucky to survive. My spine wasn't shattered, but the damage was enough to leave me needing a walker and months of painful physical therapy. I couldn't bathe myself. I couldn't cook. Hell, even turning in bed was a 2-person job. That's where my sons were supposed to come in, where family should mean something. But something changed in them. On a humid Thursday morning, I called out for Zach, the older one. I was soaked in sweat and stuck in bed after a rough night. My water jug was empty, and my meds were overdue. My body screamed with pain, but I didn't want to yell. I just wanted help. He walked in with earbuds still plugged in, looking more annoyed than concerned. "Zach, could you give me some water?" I asked. He rolled his eyes. Again, I smiled weakly, trying to make light of it. "I ain't got legs that work like yours anymore." And that's when Miles, who had been downstairs, stormed in like a tornado. His face was twisted with anger. "You know what, Dad?" he snapped. "We are not your servants." Those words, sharp as broken glass, cut through me in ways no car crash ever could. He stood there, arms crossed, like he'd been holding that in for weeks. "I didn't come back from college to wipe your damn mouth and run around like a nursemaid," he continued. "You can barely talk without needing something." Zach laughed like he agreed. I couldn't speak. My jaw trembled and my eyes burned, but no tears came out. I just stared at the 2 boys I had worked my whole life for. I remembered staying up all night sanding cabinets so Zach could get a new guitar for his birthday. I remembered eating ramen for 2 weeks just so Miles could go to that coding camp in Seattle. Now here they were, 2 grown men in my house, mocking my pain. "I'm not asking you to be servants," I finally said, my voice gravelly and low. "I'm asking you to be sons." "Well," Zach muttered, "maybe that's the problem. You expect too much." And just like that, they left me alone. That night, I tried to stand on my own. I fell. My ribs slammed against the corner of the nightstand, and I lay there for hours until morning. No one came. It's funny how pain doesn't just live in the bones. It crawls into your soul and builds a home. Over the next few days, their attitudes got worse. They'd eat in front of me and never offer a plate. Sometimes they'd leave for hours, and I'd be stuck soaked in my own filth. My wife, Dolores, had passed 5 years earlier. Cancer. If she had still been here, none of this would be happening. She loved fiercely. She'd have set them straight with just one look. But now, I was alone with 2 strangers who share my blood, but not my heart. One evening, after they returned from a party, laughing and stinking of alcohol, I asked Miles if he could help me change my bandage. He sneered. "You know, maybe you should go to one of those nursing homes. You'd get help around the clock, and we'd finally get our lives back." Zach nodded, grinning like it was a brilliant idea. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling and thought about all the years I gave them. I taught them how to drive, how to hold a hammer, how to respect others. But somewhere along the line, they learned entitlement instead of gratitude. And I realized something horrifying. They were waiting for me to give up. They were waiting for me to die. That morning, I made a decision. With shaking arms and legs that screamed with every step, I pulled myself out of bed. I used my walker to get down the hallway. I nearly fell twice, but I kept moving. I reached the kitchen where they were eating cereal like nothing was wrong. "I want you both out," I said. They blinked. "What?" Zach laughed. "You heard me." I said, firmer this time. "Out. You have 3 days. This house is mine. I built it. I bled for it. And if I'm going to recover, it won't be in a house where I'm disrespected daily." "You're crazy," Miles scoffed. "Maybe," I said, steadying myself against the table. "But I'm also done being your victim." They stormed out of the kitchen, yelling and cursing, calling me ungrateful and old. I didn't care. My heart was pounding, my knees were wobbling, but for the first time in months, I felt alive. I felt in control. I dialed a number I hadn't called in a while. My brother-in-law, Wendell. He lived 2 towns over and had always offered help. I told him everything. He was there the next morning with his truck, a nurse friend, and a plan. By the time Zach and Miles came back that evening, they found their bags at the door and locks changed. I was in a recliner with a fresh bandage and a warm meal Wendell had cooked himself. They banged on the door, cursed me, threatened lawyers. I didn't open the door. I just watched them through the window. And that's when I noticed something. The moment they turned to leave, Zach pulled out his phone and started typing. Fast. Too fast. A pit grew in my stomach. Something wasn't right. That night, I checked my emails, my bank account, and then my safe. And what I discovered next changed everything. The next morning, I sat in my recliner, staring at my computer screen, still trying to make sense of what I saw the night before. My bank account, the same one I had built steadily over 4 decades, was missing $38,450. It wasn't a mistake. I checked the transaction history. The money had been transferred in small chunks over the last 6 months. Clever enough not to raise alarms. Always to the same account, ending in 4431. I didn't recognize it. My stomach churned. But that wasn't all. My 401k account had been accessed 3 weeks earlier. Someone tried to change the listed beneficiary from Howard Granger to Zachary Granger. Luckily, the change didn't go through because the document needed a notary. But someone had tried. And the final punch to the gut? My safe in the hallway closet had been opened. I kept my late wife's jewelry in there. Dolores' locket, her gold wedding band, and a sapphire bracelet I promised would go to our future granddaughter one day. Gone. Every last piece. I sat frozen. These weren't strangers. These are my sons. And I hadn't just raised them. I had trusted them. I gave them keys to everything. My finances, my passwords, my home. I thought I was preparing them for my old age, so they wouldn't have to fight over paperwork. But clearly, they weren't planning to wait that long. They weren't helping me out of guilt or obligation. They were biding their time, cleaning me out. I called Wendell and explained everything. He swore out loud. You want me to go pay them a visit? No, I said slowly. Not yet, because something in me had changed. For weeks, I'd felt weak and forgotten, a burden. But now I felt something else, clarity. I wasn't just recovering from an accident anymore. I was waking up to the truth. Wendell helped me get in touch with a retired attorney named Lucinda Petros, a stern, sharp-eyed woman in her 70s who used to handle estate planning for half the town before she retired. She came by with a briefcase and no time for small talk. You want to protect what's left and make sure those 2 snakes don't take another cent, she said, not even blinking. Am I right? I nodded. Over the next 2 hours, we did 3 things. Changed all my account passwords and flagged any accounts for suspicious access. Rewrote my will entirely. Miles and Zach removed. Created a trust to be managed by Wendell and Lucinda herself. My house, my retirement, my remaining savings, now locked down like Fort Knox. But Lucinda wasn't done. Do you want to press charges? She asked. I looked out the window for a long while. No, I said finally. Not yet. Then what do you want? I looked her in the eyes. I want them to see me win, not from behind bars. I want them to see that they lost a good father and that I rose back stronger without them. Lucinda smiled. Poetic. I like that. The following week, the boys didn't call, didn't show up. It was as if I had never existed, which was fine by me. With Wendell's help, I got into physical therapy at a nearby recovery center. 3 days a week. Painful as hell, but worth every minute. The nurses were kind. The therapist, Morgan, a gentle ex-Marine, pushed me hard but always with a smile. You've got fire in your belly, Howard, he said after my 3rd session. Don't waste it. Little by little, I started walking short distances without the walker. My hand stopped shaking. My voice got stronger. I even started sleeping through the night. But something kept bugging me. What else had they taken? A few days later, while sorting through some old mail, I found a document from a realtor's office addressed to Zach. It was postmarked 3 weeks before my accident. It referenced a possible quick sale and had my home address listed on it. They had planned to sell my house. I felt sick. I didn't know if the accident had sped things up or thrown their plan off course. But either way, it was clear they wanted me out, either by moving me to a nursing home or worse. That night, as I sat in the living room, lights low, window across from me, sipping black coffee, I finally said it aloud. They were waiting for me to die. Wendell didn't argue. I gave him my life. Wendell, I whispered. Every broken bone, every missed vacation, every goddamn night shift. And they wanted to cash me in. He didn't offer any soft words. Just leaned forward, locked eyes with me, and said, "Then make your life the part they don't get to touch." Weeks passed. I got stronger. I started cooking again, slowly. Mowed the lawn with Wendell's help. Read books I never had time for. Reconnected with Mrs. Eleanor, my neighbor 2 houses down, who used to bring casseroles after Dolores passed. We sat on the porch some evenings and talked about gardening, dogs, and the stubbornness of men. I wasn't just healing, I was rebuilding. But then, one day, a certified letter came in the mail. From Zach's lawyer. Apparently, they were trying to challenge the ownership of my home, claiming I had promised it to them in exchange for care. A fabricated oral agreement, they said. I laughed, out loud. These boys didn't just want to steal from me. They wanted to erase me. But they didn't know I had Lucinda. And Lucinda? She didn't play games. Within 3 days, she drafted a response so brutally airtight that Zach's lawyer called to apologize and dropped the case. Lucinda wasn't done. I suggest we file a cease and desist and notify the police of the missing jewelry and money, she said. It may be time to get the authorities involved, especially if you want to protect future victims. I hesitated. Not yet. Why? Because I want to see where they run next. Because I had a hunch. And within 1 week, I would be proven right. Because one phone call from a woman I hadn't heard from in years would flip everything upside down. It was a Friday morning. The sky was gray, and the breeze was a little too cold for July in Iowa. I was sitting on my porch, drinking weak coffee and watching a squirrel chase nothing in particular across my front yard. My body was sore but healing. My heart, still raw. I had just started going through the old photo album Dolores made, the one with the sticky pages and handwritten notes beside each photo, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I nearly let it ring out. These days, my peace was precious. But something told me to answer. Hello, I said cautiously. There was a pause, then a voice soft but steady. Feminine, probably mid-30s. Mr. Granger? Yes. My name is Kendra Whitmore. I'm not sure if you remember me, but I used to work with your son, Zachary, at Blackstone Finance about 2 years ago. I sat up straight. Okay, yes. She hesitated. I don't mean to intrude, sir, but I thought you deserved to know. I've been holding on to this for a long time, and I can't sit on it anymore. My heart started to thump. Know what? She took a deep breath. Your sons, they were trying to take everything from you. The house, your retirement, even some insurance money from an account you didn't know about. Zach used to brag about it at the office. Said his dad was barely holding on, and that soon, he and his brother would cash out and be set for life. The breath left my body. Insurance money? I'm sorry, what insurance money? I asked slowly. Kendra continued, her voice trembling. He said you had a life insurance policy from your construction company days. Something you signed up for in the 90s and forgot about. They had you listed as the policyholder, but they've been working with someone to try and change the beneficiary. My vision went blurry. She wasn't lying. I could feel in my gut. Why are you telling me this now? I whispered. Because she paused again, and this time her voice cracked. Because I didn't speak up before, and someone I love was just taken advantage of in the same way. I guess I'm tired of watching good people get destroyed by their own family. There was silence between us. Then she said something that sent shivers down my spine. And Mr. Granger, Miles didn't just steal from you. He used your name to open a credit line. In 3 states. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun in slow circles. All those times I wondered what else they had done behind my back, this was it. They had planned my downfall like a business deal. Not a mistake. Not a heat-of-the-moment argument. A blueprint for betrayal. I called Lucinda first thing the next morning. She came over in a fury, holding a legal pad and her reading glasses. This is now fraud. Identity theft. Potential wire fraud. We're not just talking about stolen jewelry anymore. I know, I said, but I don't want to go to the police yet. She tilted her head. Still, I leaned forward. No, Lucinda, not yet. Not because I'm protecting them. Because I want them to see me stand before they fall. I want them to see that no matter what they did, I'm still standing. I want them to feel the weight of what they lost, a father. Lucinda gave me a long look. Then, with a small nod, she said, then let's do it your way, but let me prepare a net. Because when they come crashing down, I don't want a single one of them to land on their feet. Wendell and I drove to my old construction company the next day. Weller and Sons Contracting, the place where I broke my back for 3 decades. The office manager, Gracie, was a sweet woman I remembered from the front desk. She was older now, but still had that energy about her. I explained the situation, and her eyes went wide. Howard, of course you had a policy. All long-term employees did. Let me check. She came back 10 minutes later with a file. Here it is. Life insurance policy. $250,000. You were the sole policyholder. But she hesitated. But what? She laid a form in front of me. There was a request to change the beneficiary 3 months ago. I scanned the paper, and my jaw clenched. They had forged my signature. Miles and Zach had tried to name themselves as the sole beneficiaries. It hadn't gone through yet, thank God, but the attempt was there, and it was evidence. I need a copy of this, I said. You can have it. And Howard, yeah, I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve this. I gave her a weak smile. No, but I'm going to make sure they learn what they lost. Over the next week, I began piecing together my comeback. Wendell and I put the house under a new trust, under a different name, untouchable by them. I restructured my bank accounts. Lucinda taught me how to do everything in cash-protected layers. I called every credit bureau and flagged my name for identity fraud. And most importantly, I started writing letters. Not to them, to me. Letters that reminded me who I was. You are not what they tried to take. You are not their mistake. You are still the man Dolores loved. I taped one to my bedroom mirror because I needed to believe it. And soon I did. One morning, as the sun rose behind my porch, I got a knock on the door. I opened it and froze. It was Miles. He looked thinner, nervous. He held a duffel bag and wore an expression I couldn't quite read. Dad, he said, shifting on his feet. I don't know what's going on, but I think Zach's in trouble. He left the state, took money from some guy, and I think he used your name again. I didn't answer. I don't know where to go, he added. I didn't have anywhere else. I just need help. There was a pause between us, the kind that stretches time. I looked at him, the boy I raised, the child I bathed, the son I once held as he cried after his first heartbreak. And all I said was, you'll have to wait outside. His mouth fell open. What? I'm not turning you away, I said, my voice calm. But I'm not letting you walk in like nothing happened. Not until I know the truth. All of it. He looked like he might cry. And for a moment, I felt sorry for him. But not enough to forget. Because this wasn't over. Zach was still out there. Still running. And whatever he was planning next, I was finally ready. I didn't slam the door in Miles' face that morning. I wanted to. A part of me burned to shut it. To let him feel the same cold abandonment I'd felt every night in that dark room. When he and his brother left me soaked in sweat, bruised, and humiliated. But something, maybe Dolores' voice in the back of my head, stopped me. So I left it open, just enough for him to see me, really see me. Standing on my own 2 feet now. No walker, no trembling hands. Just a man who had survived. Sit down on the porch, I told him. You look like hell. He collapsed into the old rocking chair and dropped the duffel bag at his feet. His eyes were bloodshot, lips cracked, shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it for a week. Dad, he whispered. I messed up. I didn't answer. I didn't know Zach was going to go this far, he went on. I thought he was just moving money around. Planning ahead, you know? We figured. You figured I wouldn't make it. I interrupted flat and cold. You figured I'd die in that hospital bed, and you'd be splitting up the house and the accounts before they even put me in the ground. He blinked, swallowed hard, but didn't deny it. That policy from Weller and Sons, I continued, stepping onto the porch. The one you forged my name on? Who was behind it? You or Zach? He hesitated. I need to hear it, I said. Not for the courts. Not for Lucinda. For me. Miles looked down at his shaking hands. Zach. Mostly. He found the old paperwork when he was going through Mom's filing cabinet. Said we should cash it out. Said you wouldn't even notice. Did you sign my name? He nodded. The wind whistled between us. I had expected denial. Excuses. But not this pale, pathetic honesty. It didn't bring me peace. It just brought a new kind of ache. I came back, he added softly, because I heard you were talking to lawyers. And because I think Zach's in over his head. I raised my eyebrows. How deep? Miles rubbed his hands down his face. Real deep. He took a private loan from some guy in Kansas City. Fake documents. Big money. He used your name for collateral. He said it was temporary. Said the guy wouldn't come looking. I narrowed my eyes. And now the guy's looking. He nodded. Of course. Zach had always been the reckless one. Charming on the outside. Selfish at the core. Miles had followed him like a shadow since childhood. Always cleaning up messes. Always covering for him. I thought they'd grow out of it. Instead, they sharpened it into something criminal. So why are you really here? I asked. Miles looked up. I need your help. I laughed, sharp and bitter. You stole from me. Mocked me. Left me to rot. And now you want help? No, he said quickly. Not like that. I need you to tell the truth. That you didn't authorize that loan. That Zach forged everything. The guy's threatening to go to the police, and if they find my name on anything. I held up a hand. You should go to the police. He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Turn yourself in, I said. Confess. Cooperate. Tell them everything. You might get leniency. But if you're waiting for me to save you from the consequences, I'm not. He snapped, then caught himself. I'm not. I just didn't know what else to do. I didn't come here to beg. I just thought, maybe you could talk to him. I blinked. For the loan shark? Miles nodded. I looked out over the yard. The sun filtering through the trees. The birds pecking at seed Wendell had scattered earlier that morning. Peace had returned to my home. And now, once again, my boys were dragging their chaos back into it. And yet, I thought about Dolores again. About the way she used to cut Miles' chin when he cried. Even when we mess up bad, she'd say, we're still responsible for what we choose next. That was the only reason I said, give me the man's number. I'll make one call. One. Miles' face flooded with something between hope and disbelief. Thank you. Don't thank me, I said coldly. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this because your mother would have asked me to. That night, I called the number. The man who answered didn't bother with a greeting. His voice was deep, calm, and laced with menace. Speak. My name is Howard Granger, I said. You don't know me, but apparently my son used my identity to borrow money from you. There was a pause, then a dark chuckle. Well, the man of the hour. I'm not calling to argue, I continued. I'm calling to let you know the paperwork was fraudulent. I've reported the identity theft. Lawyers are involved. If you continue trying to collect based on a forged agreement, you'll find yourself in court. Not with my son, but with me. The line went quiet. Then he said, he owes me 30 grand. I don't care whose name he used. That money's coming back, or someone's getting hurt. I swallowed hard. I understand your position, I said slowly. But I'm not the man to threaten. Is that right? I've been broken, burned, betrayed. I've got nothing left to lose and more friends than you'd think in high places. You want your money? Go find the liar who borrowed it. You come near me again, and I promise you, you'll wish you hadn't. Silence. Then, click. He hung up. The next morning, I went to Miles, who had spent the night in his car parked up the street. I told him what happened. He won't call again, but he's coming for Zach. You need to decide if you're going to protect him or yourself. Miles stared at the ground for a long time. Finally, he said, I'll go to the police. I nodded. Smart choice. I'm sorry, Dad. Then prove it, I said. Not with words. With what you choose next. 2 days later, the police contacted me. Miles had turned himself in and gave them everything. Emails, bank transfers, even the forged documents. He didn't ask me to testify. He didn't try to shift blame. And for the first time in a long time, I saw a flicker of the boy I once loved. Not enough to forget, not enough to forgive, but enough to know the door might not stay closed forever. As for Zach, he was still gone, still running, but not for long, because what neither of them knew was this. Lucinda and I had been working on something big, something Zach wouldn't see coming. And when it dropped, Zach had always been clever, too clever for his own good. He was the kind of boy who could lie with a straight face, charm his way out of detention, and convince anyone that the sky was green if it suited his purpose. He used to use that for good. In high school, he was class president. In college, he organized food drives. I was proud of him, so proud, until I started realizing those acts weren't rooted in kindness. They were performances, carefully curated to cover what was rotting underneath: greed, ego, and a hunger for control. While Miles had turned himself in and started cooperating with the police, Zach had gone silent. No calls, no messages, no apology, just vanished. But I knew him. Zach didn't run unless he had a plan. And thanks to Lucinda, I was about to find out just how far he'd taken things. Lucinda showed up one morning with a folder. Her glasses hung low on her nose, and her mouth was tight. "I've been tracking property records," she said as she sat at my kitchen table. "And guess whose name showed up on a lease for a condo in Colorado Springs?" I didn't speak. I just let the dread crawl up my spine. "Zach's," she said. "Signed just 2 weeks after your accident. A luxury place. Mountain view, spa access, underground parking." She slid the folder across the table. Inside were printed emails, signed lease agreements, and even photos pulled from the realty website. Zach had been living it up while I was stuck in a recovery bed, fighting to use the bathroom on my own. But that wasn't the part that broke me. Lucinda pointed to a section of one document. "Look who co-signed the lease." My hands went cold. My name, my signature, forged again. He'd used me, again, and he'd done it while pretending to be the grieving son. I stared out the window for a long time after Lucinda left. The oak tree in my yard swayed gently in the breeze. The world looked calm, peaceful, but inside me, a storm had settled. This was no longer about just money or pride. It was about dignity. I had given Zach everything I could. My time, my love, my trust, and he'd gambled it all for a Mountain View condo and a fast car. It was time to act. With Lucinda's help, I filed official fraud reports in both Iowa and Colorado. We submitted evidence to the district attorney, police departments, and the credit bureaus. Every forged document, every illegal wire transfer. We even found one of the notaries Zach had lied to, an underpaid bank clerk who had been tricked into verifying his false signature. Everything was now moving legally, but I had one final move to make: a letter. I sat down that evening and wrote it by hand. Not an email, not a text, a real letter. "Zachary, you're no longer my son in name, title, or spirit. Not because you failed, not because you stole, but because when I was at my weakest, you chose to hurt me. I raised you to be better. Your mother died believing you were better. But the man you are today, he's a stranger to me. I've taken every step to protect what I've built from you. The house, the money, the future. It's out of your reach now. And when the law catches up to you, and it will, I won't be watching with bitterness. I'll be watching with grief. Because the greatest tragedy of my life isn't what you did to me. It's who you chose to become." Howard Granger. I mailed it to the condo in Colorado Springs. I didn't expect a reply. I didn't need one, because that letter wasn't about him anymore. It was about me, letting go of the son I thought I had, letting go of the pain, letting go of the hope that he'd ever change. The next day, Wendell and I sat on the porch, watching the sun sink behind the cornfields. "I heard Miles got a job working at a warehouse in town," he said, "part of his probation deal." I nodded. "He's trying." Wendell looked at me. "You gonna let him back in?" I didn't answer right away. "Maybe someday," I said finally. But not yet, because I wasn't done rebuilding. Not just the house, myself. And when the final reckoning came for Zach, I'd be ready. Not with hate in my heart, but with something far more powerful: peace. It was a rainy Thursday when Miles returned. I heard the knock, 2 soft taps, and when I opened the door, there he was, holding a brown paper bag and a folder under his arm. "I brought lunch," he said, and I signed the plea deal. I stepped aside without a word. We sat at the kitchen table, the air thick with unspoken things. He handed me the sandwich, but I didn't touch it. "I'll be doing community service. Probation. No jail," he he said. I told him everything I knew. Zach, the forged documents, the loan. I looked at him for a long moment. And I told the truth, he said quietly. For once. He opened the folder and slid a document toward me. I also gave up my claim to the house. Officially, I don't want anything, Dad. Just a chance to fix things. I stared at the paper. Miles looked older somehow. Not just tired, changed. Maybe consequences had finally done what love couldn't. I won't ever ask you to trust me again, he said, voice shaking. I just needed to tell you I'm sorry. And I mean it. I folded the paper and nodded. You'll need to earn your place, I said slowly. It won't be easy. I know, he said. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. But something shifted. The first brick of a broken bridge had been laid. Later that night, I got a call from Lucinda. They found Zach, she said. He's in Nevada, pulled over with fake plates and a stolen ID. He's in custody. I closed my eyes and let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding for months. Do they need me to testify? Eventually, she replied, but not now. He's facing more charges than you can count. Good. She paused. Howard, I know this isn't the ending you wanted. No, I said, but it's the one I earned. That evening, I sat on the porch with Wendell. Rain tapped gently on the roof above us. You okay? He asked. For the first time in a long while, I said, I think I will be. I had my home. I had peace. And maybe, just maybe, I had the chance to start again. Not as a victim, but as a man who refused to stay broken. A few weeks after Zach's arrest, a letter came in the mail from a bank in Colorado. Notice of seizure, luxury property auction. It included a photo of the condo Zach had been renting under my name, marble floors, glass walls, high ceilings overlooking the Rockies. A life he never earned. A home he tried to build on the back of someone he'd buried alive. They were liquidating his assets, what little he had left after the feds froze his accounts. Lucinda called me later that day. You might want to see this auction list, she said. They're selling off everything. Furniture, electronics, even artwork. Why would I care? I asked. Because your name is still technically tied to that lease. You have a legal right to attend. That night, I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about that condo, the one Zach ran to like it was his new kingdom. I imagined him sitting on a leather sofa, glass of whiskey in hand, laughing about the old man in the recovery bed. That same old man was walking now, stronger, wiser, and I had every right to show up. The auction was held online, but Lucinda insisted on making it official. Let them see your name on the bid log, she said. Let them know you watched it all crumble. So I did. Wendell helped me log in. I watched item after item flash across the screen. Zach's stolen dream life being picked apart by strangers. A $4,000 TV went for $300. A leather sectional for $150. His prized wristwatch, which he once told Miles was his mark of arrival, sold for $50. I didn't bid on anything. I just watched. Piece by piece, Zach's fantasy world disappeared. The next day, a woman from the auction called to confirm a detail. She recognized my name. You're the father? She asked, hesitating. I am. She paused and said something that stuck with me. I work these auctions all the time. People come in greedy, and they leave humiliated. But there's always one victim behind the mess. Someone who trusted the wrong people. I'm sorry you were that person. I thanked her and hung up. And for the first time in months, I felt free. Later that night, Miles came by again. He helped me fix the gutter that had been sagging over the porch. We didn't say much, just worked side by side, like we used to back when he was a teenager and I was still strong enough to carry 2x4s with one hand. After we finished, he turned to me. Dad, yeah, I'm proud of you. I looked at him surprised. No one would have blamed you if you gave up, he said. But you didn't. I smiled. That makes two of us then. The first letter came 2 weeks after the auction. It arrived in a plain white envelope, the kind that looked like a bill. But the handwriting on the front? I knew it instantly. Zachary's. I stared at it for a while before opening it. Part of me wanted to rip it in half. Another part, a quieter, older part, just wanted to see what the boy I once raised had to say now that everything was gone. Inside, the letter began simply. Dad, I don't know where to start. I doubt you'll read this. I wouldn't if I were you. But I wanted to say something, even if it's too late. I read the whole thing. Slowly, No apology. No real admission of guilt. Just excuses. He blamed stress. Blamed Miles. Blamed the system. I only did what I had to do. Life isn't fair. You wouldn't understand. That line made me chuckle. Wouldn't understand? I understood better than he ever would. I worked through a broken back and buried his mother while holding him upright. I raised 2 sons on a laborer's wage and skipped meals so they could have second helpings. What did he think that was, fairness? I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Not to keep, just to remind myself that some people don't change. They just get louder as they fall. More letters came, once a week like clockwork. Sometimes long, sometimes short, sometimes bitter, sometimes sad. But never once did he say the words I needed to hear. I was wrong. Miles saw one of the envelopes on the table one day. You read them? I do, I said. He waited, then asked, do you write back? I shook my head. Not yet. Maybe not ever. One evening, Wendell and I were sitting outside watching the sky turn orange when I asked, you think some people are born selfish? He thought for a moment. Nah, I think some people get scared of losing and they grab whatever they can, no matter who they hurt. I nodded. Zach never learned to stop grabbing. You did all you could, Wendell said. I took a sip of my coffee and watched the light disappear behind the trees. Maybe, but from now on, I'm done trying to teach grown men lessons they should have learned as boys. That night, I burned Zach's letters in the fire pit out back. Watched the paper curl and blacken until there was nothing left but ash and smoke. It didn't fix everything, but it sure felt like closure. They say a man starts thinking about death once he begins healing from the thing that almost killed him. I can't say if that's true for everyone, but it was for me. Recovery slowed my body down enough to hear the thoughts I'd been running from for years. Not just about Miles or Zach or the betrayal, but about what I was leaving behind if death knocked again. Because this time, I'd be ready. And I wasn't about to let the same people who tried to bury me steal even the memory of my life. So I rewrote my will. Lucinda came over with a thick folder and 2 pens. She didn't talk much as we went over the revised documents. There was something solemn about it, like we were carving words into stone. We sat at the dining room table. It still smelled faintly of lemon oil and dust. The same table Dolores used to decorate every Easter with tulips and cloth napkins folded like bunny ears. The boys used to laugh and sneak marshmallow peeps when her back was turned. Now, just me, Lucinda, and the cold clarity of final decisions. I've removed both sons entirely, she said, tapping her pen on the paper. Assets go into the trust. Beneficiaries, your goddaughter in Missouri, that shelter you've supported for years, and your neighbor Eleanor's grandson. We can add any others you'd like. I stared at the paper. My hands didn't shake like they used to. My spine didn't ache quite as much. But this still felt heavier than it should have. Removing my sons from my will wasn't just legal. It was final. You sure about this? Lucinda asked gently. I nodded. Miles is trying, I said. But trying doesn't undo what's done. And Zach, well, he's lost in a way I can't reach anymore. Lucinda didn't judge me. She just handed me the pen. With one signature, I drew a line in the sand between the life I gave and the one I was taking back. That night, I found myself sitting in the attic. I hadn't been up there since Dolores passed. The air was warm and musty, the kind of smell that lives only where old memories go to sit in silence. I opened a few boxes. Inside were baby shoes, a tiny baseball glove, Dolores's old recipe book, and a photo of me holding Zach on my shoulders at a county fair. He couldn't have been older than 7. His smile in that photo could have lit up the whole county. What happened to that boy? Was it the money, the pressure, or something I missed? I held the picture a while, and then I slid it back into the box and shut the lid. Because the man who wrote those forged documents, the one who left me helpless on a hospital bed, was no longer that smiling child. I had to stop looking for him. Miles came by again the following weekend. He mowed the lawn, fixed a broken step on the porch, and helped Eleanor carry groceries inside. He was quiet, like he didn't know what to say anymore, and maybe that was a good thing. At lunch, he cleared his throat. Dad, I met with a counselor, he said. Court-ordered, but it's helping. I looked up from my sandwich. Good. He hesitated. He said I should ask you for something. Not forgiveness. Not even a second chance. Just time. I studied him. His eyes didn't dodge mine like they used to. He didn't fidget or fake tears. He was just a man who had been humbled, and that was new. So I said, "You can come by, help around the house, have lunch, but don't expect more than that." "Not yet." He nodded quickly. "I won't mess it up." "I know," I said, "because this time I'm not giving you the chance to." Later that week, I received a package in the mail. It was from the Iowa Department of Corrections. Zach had sent a final letter, this time typed, "Dad, I'm not writing to make excuses. I know what I did. I know what I lost. I'm not asking for anything, but I wanted to tell you something I never said. I knew you weren't going to die. I just didn't care what it would do to you. I wanted out. I wanted money. I wanted to feel like I was finally winning. And if hurting you meant I got that, I told myself it was worth it. It wasn't. There's nothing left now. Just bars and silence. I don't expect you to write back, but I wanted to say it just once. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Zachary." I sat there for a while after reading it. Not angry, not sad, just tired. I folded the letter, placed it in a drawer, and walked outside. The sun was setting, and everything was bathed in gold. Birds rustled in the trees. The wind danced across my face, and somewhere deep in my chest, something old and bitter began to dissolve. Not completely, not all at once, but enough. Enough to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could sleep through the night without dreams of betrayal. That evening, I called Lucinda. "Put a clause in the trust," I told her. "For what? If Miles continues to work, stay clean, and live with integrity for the next 5 years, he can earn a portion of the estate." "A small portion?" Lucinda chuckled. "You're a better man than I thought." "I'm just a man who's done being bitter," I said, and I meant it. It was a Tuesday morning. The kind that felt like nothing special. Just warm sun, light breeze, birds chirping. But it was everything to me, because I had survived. Not just the accident, not just the betrayal. I had survived being broken by the people I loved most. And somehow, I was still here. Wendell stopped by with coffee. Miles showed up later with a toolbox, ready to fix the front gate without me asking. Lucinda called in the afternoon to update me on a new clause she filed. Miles was officially being monitored by a trustee. Nothing dramatic. No headlines. Just small, meaningful steps toward rebuilding. And Zach, he was still behind bars. I hadn't written back. Maybe one day I would. Maybe not. But I finally stopped checking the mailbox with dread. That evening, I took a walk around the neighborhood. I waved at neighbors, patted Eleanor's dog, and stood at the edge of my property line, looking out at the tall grass where my sons once played tag, barefoot and laughing, long before they knew what money was worth. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel bitter. I felt grateful, because pain didn't win. It didn't define me. It didn't destroy me. It refined me. When I got home, I sat on the porch and opened Dolores's old recipe book. It still smelled faintly of vanilla and worn paper. On the last page, she had scribbled something I'd never noticed before. "When the world breaks you, rebuild from what's left, stronger, quieter, and wiser than before." I smiled. She knew this life, this pain, better than I thought. So here I sit, an old man with more scars than medals, more silence than applause. But I have my peace. I have my dignity. And that, my friend, is enough.